enter in your username and password, sign in, and you select the virtual terminal application. This will take you to the landing page of VT. You want to make sure that you are always setting these parameters up. We've had some questions where people they log in and they go and try to process a transaction or query transactions right away. And what this does right here, it actually loads your payment profile into the system. So without that, you won't be able to do anything else. So you go ahead and select the merchant location, the terminal, and the payment profile. Once you've selected all three, this data right here should be populated. This is basically your merchant profile data. Some of it might not make sense, but you want to make sure that this portion right here is populated before you proceed. Once this is done, you come over here to the left and you click on bank card, and you see the different menu options. So let's start with I'll show you guys a little bit about processing transactions through the virtual terminal. So we'll start with a key card. You click key card, you get to the transaction screen right here. So you can go ahead and run a transaction, just the simple data. These four objects right here are required. The rest are optional. So I'm going to go ahead and process a transaction real quick. All right, card type is set based on the card number you enter. Again, these fields right here are optional, but we always suggest that you provide as much as information as possible. So if you do have access to this information, it would be best to provide it in the transaction. When you're done, click process. If it's approved, then you're going to get an approval message right here with the transaction ID. If this was declined, then it would be the same thing, but the status right here would show declined. Click OK, and this will take you to the transaction details screen. As you can see here, this is just a summary of the transaction. The data that was sent in the request. You've got card type, amount, transaction date, the status is captured, some card data like the expiration date, the last four of the card. Anything that was sent in the transaction request should show up here. Also, if you look to this menu right here on top, this gives you an option to print the receipt and also perform secondary transactions. So right now you've got three different options: adjustments, returns, and voids. Adjustments gives you the option to adjust either up or down. So this was a $2 transaction. I'm going to adjust it up by $1. Just enter the amount, click OK. As you can see right here on this screen, you have now an adjustment transaction for $1. If you click on that, this will take you to the detail screen for the adjusted transaction. As you can see, transaction type, it's adjust, and the status, it's been adjusted. And then the amount, it used to be $2, and now it's $3. So let's say, after doing that, you want to go ahead and return this transaction. You can click the return button, and here you have two options. You can either do a full return for the $3, or you can do a partial return. So if for whatever reason you need to return only a portion of the amount, you can do that as well. So let's just do $1.50 and click OK. Refresh the page here. All right, you can see the return has been processed. It is for $1.50, and you can see the status is partially returned. So if we click on that, it will take you to the bank card transaction details screen for the return transaction. You can see the type here, and then the status is partially returned. And again, it will show the same card data since it's all been processed with the same card. So any transactions that you process that are related to that initial transaction, you will see it here. This is the transaction tree screen. So if you have done a capture, then you'll also see it there, and you're able to switch between the different transaction screens by clicking on the transaction type. So this takes you to the adjustment transaction screen. This takes you to the original transaction screen. Notice the amounts are different. And then for swipe transactions, I don't actually have a reader hooked up to the computer right now, but you're basically, if you do have a USB reader connected to your computer that you're accessing the terminal from, you click on swipe card and you swipe the card through the reader. The data will be populated here, and then down here you'll have a pop-up where the data will be parsed, and it would look like just like the key card transaction. So, and you go through the same process. Once the data is populated, you don't have to populate anything manually. You just swipe the card, and it will be parsed into the form. You click process. You'll get the approval. Click OK, and it will take you to the transaction details screen. So it's just the same process. It's just with the reader instead of inputting the transactions manually. So these are the two ways that you can process a transaction through. We can go ahead. Let's go back to the key card, and I'm going to show you. I think I showed you the adjust and the return. Let's do a void real quick here. So we'll do another. Let's do a $5 transaction. All right. Expiration date. So click process. Got the approval. Click OK. And then you decide you wanted to void the transaction for whatever reason. So you click on the void button. In this case, you don't need to specify the amount. The void will just take the transaction out of the batch. You click OK. And as you can see right here, the void has been populated. If I click on it, it will take me to the void transaction screen. Transaction type is void. Transaction status state is voided. Now the difference between void and return. They both refund the money to the card holder. However, void can only be used until settlement. So basically same day. If you're trying to cancel the transactions before the batch is closed, before the end of your day, which is usually around 1 a.m. Eastern, then you go ahead and do a void. If we're talking next day or after settlement, after the batch has been closed, then you will have to do a return. So the void will take the transaction out of the batch, and when you're sending, at the end of the day, when you're sending your batch to when the batch is sent to the processor, the initial transaction is not part of the batch. If you guys have noticed before, when your gas stations are a perfect example of that. And at first, the charge shows as pending on your card, and then after a day or two, it shows that it's been settled. So that's what's happening there. When it's pending, that means there's a hold on your account, but the charge hasn't settled yet. So in that period of time, with our processors, it's that same day, then you can void the transaction, and that takes it out of the batch. The return, it's a reverse authorized. So your funds have settled, they are in your bank account, and then you're going to move them back from your bank account to the customers. So when you're doing a return, you're essentially doing two transactions. There's the original auth, and then there's the return that reverses the funds. So this pretty much covers the transaction processing portion. Let's look at the view transaction. This is where you can query for your transactions. And there are a lot of different criteria that you can set for the search. the date, you can just set a date range and click search, and this will show you all the transactions that were processed in that date range. So as you can see, this is all these transactions were processed in this account between today and I believe the 27th of last month. That's the date range I chose. You can move around. They're sorted by date. When you find the transaction, if you're looking for a specific transaction, when you find the transaction you're looking for, just click on the transaction ID, and this will take you to the transaction details screen, the one we were looking at earlier. We limit it to just today's transactions, so I'll do this. These are the transactions that were processed on this account today. So let's see if you can see right here. This is the $5 that we processed at the end and got voided. This is the $2 transaction that we started with. It was adjusted to $3, and then it was $1.50 was returned from that transaction. So this shows you, and then you can see right here the transaction state. First it was captured, then it was adjusted, then it was partially returned. So if I go back and here, let's see, let's go back here. Yeah, so you can see it right here. The authorizing capture $2, the adjusted $3, and then the return is $1.50. There are other ways that you can search. You can search by amount. So let me go back here. Let's do the $2, and this will only show the transactions with $2 per amount. You can see right here. You can do, if you have, let me see, if you have the transaction ID is our transaction identifier. So if you want the quickest way to find the transaction, then just put in the transaction ID, and that will give you the exact transaction you're looking for. Put there, click, and you can do any of the secondary transactions that you wish right here. You can also, you could do card type. Let's do Visa, and let's go back a little bit. And this will give you only the Visa transactions that were processed between the 27th of September and today. This is a test account, so you're not going to see a lot of transactions on it, but it just gives you an idea on how everything works. One thing I wanted to bring up is the Velocity portal PowerPoint. This we usually send to your agents, your NAB agents. So let us know if you do not have one of those. We'll send you a copy. And this is a PowerPoint that basically goes over what we went over today. It's pretty straightforward, step by step for every transaction type. Shows you how to search, shows you how to do adjustments, returns, voids, processing transactions. Just a simple step by step. Highly recommend you guys take a look at this and try to run some test transactions on your account. Just make sure you feel comfortable before you start processing with live customers.